What's up, guys? It's Matty Walker back again, coming up with part two of bands touring without key members. So I mentioned a few in the first video. It's time to mention a few more. First of all, this next band I'm going to mention is one of my all-time favourites. I'm going to see them twice on their farewell tour this year. I'm talking about UFO. Sorry. Forgive me. UFO I love dearly. I love pretty much all their lineups. They've never made a bad album in my opinion apart from one. They are going with two original members. That's Phil Mogg on vocals and Paul Raymond on... Sorry, three original members, but one of them you could class as original. Phil Mogg on vocals, Paul Raymond on backing vocals, guitar, rhythm guitar and keyboards, and Andy Parker on drums. Now, for many people, the classic UFO lineup was Phil Mogg, Andy Parker, Paul Raymond with Pete Way on bass, and of course none other than Michael Schenker on guitar. That fell apart in 1979, and they got Paul Chapman in on guitar, and then Paul Raymond left, and they got in a guy called Neil Carter. In my opinion, the Neil Carter and Paul Chapman period of UFO is fantastic. I think that albums like Mechanics, The Wild, Willing and Innocent and No Place to Run are brilliant, although the five with Schenker, and not to mention the classic live album Stranger Than the Night, you can't beat those. But I really think that there's some great stuff on those three albums. The other one that followed, Making Contact, was okay. And I actually thought that when they split up entirely and they did the Misdemeanor album, which was just Phil and Paul Raymond and a bunch of other guys, I thought that was really good too. That lineup fell apart. I should mention that before Michael Schenker, the guitar player was a guy called Mick Bolton, and Paul Raymond didn't join until 1978. And then after that phase, Pete Way and Phil Mogg put another version of UFO together with Lawrence Archer on guitar and some other, I can't remember who was on drums. And then Michael Schenker came back along with Paul Raymond and Andy Parker. And then something weird happened. Andy Parker left before they did that reunion tour and was replaced by Simon Wright of AC/DC and Dio. And then that lineup fell apart again. Schenker quit. 3 years later, they do another tour with the same lineup. Then they take a break. 2 years later, the lineup of Schenker, Way and Mogg reunite the trio, and they bring in Ainsley Dunbar on drums. But for the tour, they have a different keyboard player because they didn't have a keyboard player on the album they did called Confident in 2000, and they got in another drummer for the tour. Then that's it. They did a handful of dates. It all falls apart. Schenker leaves UFO for good. 2004. Phil Mogg and Pete Way rise again, and they bring back Paul Raymond and Jason Bonham, the son of John Bonham of Led Zeppelin, on drums. And they bring in Vinnie Moore on guitar, who they still have today, a great guitar player. And that lineup, well, part of that lineup's been going for a while now. And then Andy Parker, a year later, decides he wants to come back to UFO after many years away. And he does, and he's been with them ever since. I thank the Lord he's back, because I know they have had a couple of drummers in, but no one has that beat for UFO like Andy Parker. The same way for Phil Rudd for AC/DC, Ian Pace for Deep Purple, John Bonham for Led Zeppelin, all that things combined. Andy Parker is the only drummer for UFO, and that he seems like a really great guy. Then Pete Way decides to leave the band for what we hear is a liver problem, but he'll be back. That does not happen. His health is steadily declined. He's not in a very good way at all, and he's not even released his album. I don't even know when that will be released, his solo album. So he's gone. So currently, UFO consists of Phil Mogg, Andy Parker, Paul Raymond, Vinnie Moore on guitar, and Rob DeLuca from Sebastian Bach's band on bass. Is it a good lineup? Yeah. Can you still call it UFO? Yeah, because Phil Mogg is UFO, and he's retiring after this tour, and that'll be it for UFO. But yeah, absolutely. I've seen UFO with Pete Way and without him. I've never seen them with Schenker. You didn't miss Schenker at all. In fact, you didn't really miss Pete Wayne. I feel quite hurt saying that because I love him. I love the guy. But the lineup they've got right now, been going solidly for at least 10 years now. A brilliant band. Love UFO. Long may they go. Well, unfortunately they are. Another band without original members. My reason for getting to rock music, Deep Purple. They're currently going with one member who was in the band from the beginning. That's drummer Ian Pace. Ian Gillan and Roger Glover have been in the band for many years, in and out. Steve Morse has been with them since 1994. And Don Airey has filled with them on keyboards since 2002, when the late great John Lord decided to retire in 2002. And sadly, we lost him 10 years later in 2012. May he rest in peace, one of the best Hammond rock players ever. Deep Purple have had many lineup changes. Many. You know, lineup, and the fact that, you know, they had, they went through 4 lineup changes in 8 years, which is insane. Because when Nick Simper and Rod Evans, the original singer and bass player, they left, then Ian Gillan and Roger Glover came in, they went, David Coverdale came in on vocals, Glenn Hughes on bass and vocals, and then Richie Blackmore on guitar decided to leave. They got in Tommy Bolin, and then the classic Mark II lineup of Gillan, Glover, Lord, Pace and Blackmore got back together. Doesn't last for long. Ian Gillan's out. They bring in Joe Lynn Turner from Rainbow. Made one album, quite a good album in my opinion. He goes, Gillan comes back, Blackmore goes, and then Steve Morse comes in. And the lineup with Steve Morse and John Lord and Ian Gillan and Roger Glover and Ian Pace lasted for many years. And then in 2002, John Lord decided to retire. The lineup that they've got going now with Don Airey on keyboards has been going for years and years. Can you still call that Deep Purple? In my opinion, of course you can. Ian Gillan is the voice of Deep Purple. Despite the fact they've had a few vocalists, he's the voice of Deep Purple. Roger Glover is the bass player. It's just fact. There is the line. If you saw how they sound today, yes, Gillan does not sound like he does, but he sings in a different way now. They are a killer band and the masters of their instrument. Of course, they can still be called Deep Purple, in my opinion. Steve Morse is incredible. Absolutely incredible. I will admit that the second time I saw Deep Purple live, they weren't great. The other 2 times after that, amazing. Can they be called Deep Purple? Yes, of course. Nazareth. Nazareth only have one original member at the moment. That's Pete Agnew on bass. Because for many years, it was Pete Agnew and Dan McCafferty who led Nazareth. And Dan McCafferty had to retire in 2013. They then got a guy called Linton Osborne, who I've seen do a solo show and met. A lovely chap. But that didn't last very long. Why? I don't know, because he was a really great singer. I've got the DVD actually of the concert they did with him. He's excellent. And then you've got Carl Sentence. Now, I never saw Nazareth with Dan McCafferty because I only became a Nazareth fan 3-4 years ago. But I've seen them with Carl Sentence twice, and they're still a very good live band. Am I interested in anything new they put out? No. If it was Dan on vocals, yes, of course I would be. But the fact that they've got one original member, and I mean Jimmy, Lee, Pete's son, and Jimmy, guitar and drums, have been with them for years now. Jimmy's from Aberdeen, born and bred Aberdonian like myself. They're great players. I've shaken their hands. I've met them after gigs. They're great guys. Can they still be called Nazareth? It's a tough one because there's only Pete there on bass, and he writes the songs. Yeah, but so it's a tough one. I still really like them though. I'd still go and see them plug all the hits. Who am I missing here? Or anyone else that I have failed to mention? Well, Styx is another one. I'll mention that one. Styx and Foreigner, to be exact. Styx started in 1971 professionally. Dennis DeYoung, keyboards and vocals. He formed the band with the Panazzo brothers, Chuck on bass and John on drums. And then you had John Karlewski on guitar, JY on guitar. And that lineup lasted for a few albums. Karlewski left, and then Tommy Shaw, who is pretty much known as the voice and guitar of Styx, he came in and pretty much shook everybody up. That lineup lasted a long time, and when they tried to get back together for 1991, it didn't work. Tommy Shaw didn't want to come back. There was major fallouts with the band and between JY and Tommy and Dennis DeYoung as to what direction the band should go in. So Tommy was out, and then Dennis in 91 decided the band should get back together, but he has to get veto on all band decisions or else they weren't going to get back together. And they made the album Living on the Edge of the Century, which in my opinion is quite a good album, and Glenn Burtnick did a pretty good job. Then they split again. They want to get back together for the 20th anniversary of The Grand Illusion in 96-97. Dennis DeYoung, JY and Tommy patch their differences up. Next thing, unfortunately, John Panazzo cannot tour. His years of alcohol addiction really put him down, and he was replaced by Todd Zuckerman, who's still with him on drums to this day, an incredible drummer. And then Dennis DeYoung leaves. How can Styx go on? Is it possible? I've had this argument with so many people. Dennis DeYoung, yes, was a great part of Styx, and he's still a great singer. But was it wrong they brought in Lawrence Gowan? Of course not. Lawrence Gowan made them more rocky. I know, I love I love their ballads. But if you go and see Styx live now, oh my god, they're amazing. Watch the review I did of the DVD. There was nothing wrong with that lineup. And Chuck Panazzo couldn't tour as much, so Ricky Phillips is in on bass. A great lineup. A fantastic lineup. Everyone that says Styx is only Dennis DeYoung, wrong. Totally wrong. My opinion, of course. I love the lineup that they have right now. I'd urge anyone to check them out. Unfortunately, their tours over in the UK are far and few between. The only time I've ever seen Styx is opening for Deep Purple, and then opening for Foreigner and Journey. Funnily enough, one of those bands I'm going to talk about now. Yeah, so Styx, amazing. I might as well carry on. Foreigner. Now, I've seen Foreigner twice or 3 times. I think it's 3 times now. And it's never been with Lou Gramm, the original vocalist. The thing about Foreigner is that Foreigner were never a band with recognisable faces. Never. They could go out on tour and sometimes you wouldn't know who's it. It wasn't like Led Zeppelin or Aerosmith or the Rolling Stones, etc. They weren't that kind of band. So, Al Greenwood and what was the name of the bass player? Can't remember anyway. So there you go, you can't even remember their names. So Foreigner, are they right to carry on? It's Mick Jones's baby, it's Mick Jones's band. Kelly Hansen, their new singer, is amazing. Lou Gramm can't sing like that anymore. Of course, Foreigner should carry on. Now, this is the thing. Sometimes Mick Jones's health over the last few years has not been very good, so they've went on without him. And now what happens is at the start of the 5 songs in every show, the band go on and Mick Jones comes on later. Is that a good thing? Well, do you know what? I'll be honest, not one person in that audience complained in Glasgow. And they were phenomenal. And what a live band they are. Really good. Live, Kelly Hansen's vocals are fantastic. And Mick Jones gets underrated, as a guitar player. Elvis saying Lou Gramm should come back. No, he shouldn't. Lou Gramm is pretty much retired now after this tour he does. And yes, members of Foreigner have got back together to celebrate the band's 40th anniversary. But Foreigner are great in the incarnation they are now. Okay, Journey. Now, as we know, Journey have had 3 lead singers in the past 11 years. Steve Perry left the Situation in 96, and then they had Steve Augeri, who in my opinion was absolutely phenomenal. Vocal problems caused him to leave the band in 2006, and then they brought in Jeff Scott Soto. He was quite a good fit to the band, and he did very well live, but apparently personality-wise they weren't getting on, so they brought in Arnel Pineda. Arnel is torn, as far as I'm concerned, my opinion on him. I think he sounded great on the Revelation record, and I think he sounded great on the Eclipse record. Live, he was good, but he wasn't great. And interestingly enough, I went to see a fantastic tribute recently called A Foreigner's Journey, where they played Inverness. They're from, where are they from? They're from somewhere in England. And the singer they've got, oh my god, sounds better than Arnel Pineda. And they're playing my hometown of Aberdeen in November this year, so check them out, A Foreigner's Journey. And they do the Foreigner stuff great, but when they did Journey, oh my god, they were phenomenal. the guy started the first lines of Separate Ways. Here we stand! And I was like... Now, Journey. Neil Schon is currently with another band called Journey Through Time, which features original Journey keyboard player Greg Rowley and former Journey drummer Dean Castronovo. People were saying that could be called Journey. Could it? Well, you've still got the current Journey inactive for a year. Could Journey survive without Arnel Pineda and bring this guy from A Foreigner's Journey in? I think so. I think if that happened, Journey's audience would get skyrocket, because personally I think Journey fans are becoming a bit fed up with Arnel. And I am too, to be honest. I think he's overstayed his welcome. I didn't get tired of Ojiri, and to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't get tired of Jeff Scott Soto. Perry can't sing the way he did, and he's just recently come back with his album. He's one of my favourite singers of all time. But it's a thought out there, and I actually joked with the guy. I said, really and truly, you should send Neil Schon and Jonathan Cain a tape. But I personally prefer Journey's older period, before Jonathan Cain joined. I preferred the work they did with Greg Rowley. We love all the hits, Don't Stop Believing Any Way You Want It, Faithfully, Worlds Apart. But I like the first 3 albums that they did, where they were more bluesy, Departure, Infinity and Evolution. Just my opinion. Right guys, that's another video done. Rock on. If there's any more opinions, comment below. Have a great week.